Right now, I'm tracking 127,000 property owners that are underwater on their mortgage. And these folks can't sell in many cases without taking a loss and bringing money to the closing table. And so that's what we're reviewing today on the Ohio Housing Nerd live stream. Because when you look at this, you can really see what's happening when it comes to these underwater mortgages. And this is the state of Ohio in general. Back in May of this year, we had about 122,000 properties in the state underwater. And then it climbed to nearly 129,000 and it has dipped to 127,280. But we're going to look at where this is happening the most. And so, for example, if I want to look at a county level on underwater mortgages, look at this. Look at Franklin County, 2.21% of all properties have a mortgage that's underwater. And that's actually been climbing in Franklin County. In fact, I think Franklin County has more underwater properties than any other county in Ohio. So again, today on the Ohio Housing Nerd, we're going to talk about why this is happening and what it means to you if you're buying or selling anytime soon in Ohio, or you're just curious about the Ohio housing market. But I want to welcome you. My name is Jason Ferrier. I am the Ohio Housing Nerd. I'm a realtor. I'm an investor with Kiger Realty, but I'm not an accountant and I'm not a lawyer, and this is not financial advice. So do your own work, right? That's what you got to do. All right. Now, we're going to review all this underwater mortgage stuff for like 5 minutes or so, and then goes to the fun part because I'm going to look at your individual zip codes. That's my favorite part of these live streams. And we're going to go maybe even a couple hours here today looking at as many zip codes as I can fit in. And we'll look at the underwater mortgages where you live down to your zip code level using another software. We're going to dive into that. So that's what's happening today. Welcome. Beautiful Ohio day. It's Friday. Time for football tonight. Time for some housing right now, though. So let's get started. All right. Now, let me go back to this map. And what you should know is that you can go into my website right now, jasonferrier.com, and you can look at this same data I'm going to look at. So I go to jasonferrier.com, I go to data, and then this map will pull up, and this allows you to look at basically every metric in the housing market for Ohio. Everything from active inventory levels to sale prices to permits to demand to property tax delinquencies, to pre-foreclosure percentages. And now, folks, I've added underwater loans. So when I click this button, you can see, and I hover over Franklin County, 11,024 properties right now are underwater. And basically that means they owe more than their home is worth. That's what it means. And these folks are stuck. You can't sell because if they do, they're going to probably have to bring something to closing or maybe have to do a short sale. And we haven't seen this, this type of distress. We haven't seen this in the housing market, not nationally and definitely not in Ohio for a while, because home prices have been increasing exponentially since 2020, really since like 2018, they've been increasing exponentially. So because Ohio home prices have been increasing so much, that keeps underwater mortgages at bay. But lately, what we've seen is home prices, the growth start to slow down. And in some areas, it's actually declining, although not too many yet. And so as that home price growth slows, you get people where their home is not appreciating as fast as it was a few years ago. And if they just bought a house and they didn't put a lot of money down, you're going to be underwater maybe for a few years. So that's what I'm seeing. And I'm seeing this more so in people that just purchased since 2020, 2021, seeing that happen more so than people obviously that purchased before that because they've had a chance to actually pay off some of their mortgage. Makes sense, right? But if we see actual price decline, then you'll see more and more underwater mortgages. That's just how it works. So again, this is Franklin County. Let me show you where some other activities happening. If I look at the percentage of properties underwater right now, you can see this. Franklin County, 2.21% of all homes, of all properties, rather. This includes some commercial property. And then if I go to Union County, this has one of the higher percentages underwater. It's actually 2.9%, and that's grown, 30 basis points, nearly 30 basis points since May of this year. And I'm going to keep tracking this. The reason why I only go back to May is because that's the data that I've been tracking. There's not an easy way to get this, so I have to kind of be creative to actually capture this info. But I'll keep tracking this and adding months, and we'll see how this trend plays out. But it's something to keep an eye on. I mean, you can go to basically any county in Ohio. A few counties don't have the data just because it's maybe too small of an area. But like Knox County, 2.5% of all mortgages underwater. I'm sorry, all properties underwater, not just with a mortgage, but all properties. That's how we're doing it. Look at Licking County. This rate's actually one of the higher rates, 3.32% of all properties underwater with their mortgage. So that's what's happening throughout Ohio. Let me show you this real quick, though. This will kind of give you some context as to what's happening nationally. So I don't have this chart built for Ohio, but when you look at the national level, right now we're around 2%, 2.5% maybe of all mortgages underwater. Well, look at back when it spiked. Back in 2010, 2011, it was nearly 30%. And that, maybe you don't know this, maybe you do, but that was the great financial crisis and the last time the housing market crashed through the US. So my point is that this, while you look at Franklin County and you go, wow, 11,000 properties, are worth less than the actual mortgage on the home. Well, it's like, is that a lot? Well, when you think about it nationally, it's not, right? I mean, we're still at very low levels right now throughout the country. And that's because, again, prices have increased rapidly. And that's kept a lot of people from falling underneath their loan amount. But there are areas of the US where I'm seeing like 10, 11, 12, 13% of homes underwater, but not here in Ohio. Overall in Ohio, it's still under 2% from what I can tell. But yeah, so this is what we're going to do today. Again, drop your zip code. I will get to it here in a minute, and we'll dive into some of these markets. If you have a question about the Ohio housing market, please drop it in the comments, tag me, and super chats get priority. So if you give me a super chat, not that you have to, but if you do, you'll get to the top of the list when it comes to putting you in line to review your market. And please let me know if you're buying, selling, investing, and the zip code, and I will pull it right now. All right, let's get started. And it's good to see y'all. Happy Friday. All right, Evil Overlord, how are you? Afternoon, something new. 44231. Thumbs up. Thanks for the thumbs up, Evil Overlord. Yeah, give me a thumbs up and subscribe to the Ohio Housing Nerd. It's amazing how many of y'all aren't subscribed. Any trends you find positive in Ohio? Yeah, I mean, look, and by the way, I didn't say this, but I'll briefly cover it. This all matters. These underwater mortgages matter because if you are, and I would say this is a positive trend as a buyer, it just means that the housing market is probably returning to more of a normal market. So that's a positive sign, Evil. It's returning to more of a normal market, right? Where even if you're a seller, you could be grateful for that, because you're probably buying something else, right? So as a buyer, the underwater status could be an opportunity to buy a short sale, but it can just mean that, hey, the housing market's returning to normal. So that's definitely a positive trend. Now, if you're a seller for the underwater mortgages and you see that your area is increasing with the number of underwater mortgages, that may be a warning sign that you need to sell sooner than later. I never encourage people to sell their real estate unless they have to. I always tell them, hey, you should keep your real estate. But when you think about who's suffering from underwater mortgages the most, loans that are basically higher than what they can sell the house for, it's concentrated a lot of times in areas where there's a lot of FHA buyers, because FHA buyers, FVA buyers, maybe even USDA buyers don't put a lot down. Sometimes they only put 3%, sometimes nothing. And so if you don't put anything down on a home, And then, you know, your mortgage is 300 grand. You bought the home for 300 grand. Well, it may be a challenge to actually get any equity out of that for a few years. That's what I'm seeing. Anyway, Ebel, let's look at 44231. Find out what's happening. 44231. And so using my website, you can come in here right now. It's free. You don't even have to give me your email address or anything. I'm just offering this right now as a thank you. 423. And I'm constantly adding data to this thing. It's actually become kind of fun to look at this. So I don't have your underwater loan information using my map. I have to go into a different system to get the zip code data, but I'm going to review your market and then I'll get to the underwater distress. So, oh, you only have 11 listings. And so, by the way, how this works, folks, is I'm going to look at the individual markets. I'm going to look at supply, demand, pricing, and then the distress being underwater mortgages for your actual zip code or county. But Ebel, we just don't have a lot of data here. So I'm going to have to jump out to the county level and take a look at what's happening. Yeah, it's in Portage County, right? So in Portage County, look at this, 185 listings right now. Last year, 208. 208. So you've lost listings. You've lost active inventory in your market. That's, you know, a lot of areas of the U.S. are exploding with inventory, but you actually declined. And if you go back in time, look at this. This is, again, I'm always amazed by this. It's startling that you had 523 homes for sale in July of 2016. Now you have 185. No wonder prices went up, right? No wonder they went up. You just lost inventory. The other thing I look at here is your pending ratio. So your pending ratio, you can see it pegged right here on the screen, 1.18%. And what that means is the higher the ratio, the higher over 1. In other words, if it's just 1, then it's a more of a balanced market, but a 1.18 really leans more to sellers. And even getting closer to 1, even like 0.7, 0.8, 0.9, all the way up to 1, that is more of a seller's market. But 1.18 is definitely a seller's market. And so it means that for every home that's listed, there's 1.18 buyers, more than one buyer ready to buy it. So the demand is outstripping the supply. And you could see at one point, Ebel, it was 1.79 in Portage County. And that was when sellers had complete control. So the lower this number, the more buyers have leverage. And we're seeing buyers gain more leverage slowly, very slowly, throughout the U.S. and Ohio, most zip codes, most counties of Ohio. So that's what I'm seeing with the pending ratio on supply and demand. Let me take a look at prices, and then we'll look at distress. Single-family home value, where you are in Portage County, $284,000. And how much is that up? 5%. Up 5% year over year. So in this situation, most people who buy in the last couple years, probably, I wouldn't think they're underwater actually, because prices are still going up 5%, right? So your home value goes up, your mortgage for the first few years doesn't do much, but at least it doesn't go up, right? It actually maybe goes down slightly. That'll make sure that you're not underwater. But if this growth slows down, that's when you could have a problem if you just purchased. Keep in mind, if you just purchased a home or if you are underwater, it doesn't mean you have to sell. It doesn't mean you can't afford your home. It just means your value is less than the mortgage. That's all it means. But if you have to sell in that situation, you're going to have to bring money to closing. That's how it works. So let's go now to your, the other thing I've been looking at lately is median list price. In other words, how much are people actually listing homes for? This is a new metric I'm tracking in my database too. So $367,000 rate. I'm sorry, $337,000 is the median list price. Now, a trend that I'm seeing. You asked again, Ebel, if there are any other trends that are positive. If you're a buyer, this is a positive trend. In many counties and many zip codes, I'm seeing this median list price fall. So it's how much people are actually listing the home for. If that's falling, one would think eventually prices will start to follow suit, right? Not guaranteed, but it's a trajectory. And it peaked. I mean, you could see this, and this is year over year. This is not looking at, not looking at winter compared to summer. I'm looking at summer compared to summer. Back in 2024, it was $367,000. Now $337,000. It could be the mix of homes. Maybe they are listing cheaper homes. Could be that. But in general, you could see how this thing has just climbed since 2016. And this is really like the first significant year over year decline we've seen in a decade when you look at July data. That's a sign. So maybe this thing will change in Portage County. It's going to take a while. It could take another year, right, to really see a change in prices. But that's what's happening in Portage. And then let's go to your distress here. So if I look at underwater, how many loans underwater? Right now, 1,080 loans underwater, and that's a percentage of 1.30%. So just barely over 1% of all the properties underwater. Not a huge deal at all. Remember, during the Great Financial Crisis, nearly 30% of homes nationwide underwater. So at least this is not 30%, but we can keep an eye on it. That's what's happening with underwater loans in Portage County. Now, I can do this too. I'll come in here to PropStream, which is where I got most of this data from, and I'll type in Portage County. I got a Portage County here, Portage County, Ohio. And this will tell me where they are. And we can actually look at a couple of these real quick. You can say if I go to filters and I go down to upside down. Whoops, that's not working. Come on. Yep, there we go. 1,096 properties underwater. That's what we thought, right? If I go to some of these, like this one right here, $435,000, it says it has a mortgage balance of $491,000. So that's an example of one that's underwater, right? It's actually on the market, looks like. Yep, on the market right now. 29 days on market, and they're selling for $435,000. Now, maybe this mortgage data is old, but it looks like they're selling for less than they actually owe. Let's look at another one. Maybe that one's not the best example. Let's look at this one. This one's on the market too, 42 days for $219,000. Here's one more. I want to find a good example of one. All these are on the market. This one's been on the market for 76 days, $262,000 in Kent. When I looked at this yesterday nationally on my national channel, one of the things that stood out was that there were a lot of short sales we identified. Maybe we'll find some today. None of those are really great examples, though. Maybe we'll find one in another zip code or another area. Let's go back to my data, and I'll go to the next request. But thanks, Evil. Always appreciate it. What's next? Drop your zip code below if you're joining us. I will get to your market in a minute. You're not buying or selling. That's okay. At least you told me. 45385. Let's look at the data. You got 78 listings. And so let me just go back and check this out. Yeah, Rob. So how I'll do this, I'm going to look at the active listings first, then the demand side of the equation, then prices, and then we'll look at any distress you have in Xenia. So this is Xenia, Ohio, zip code 45385. Right now, 78 homes on the market. Last year, let's see how many you had last year. Last year, you had 64. This year, 78. So you've added 22% to your supply. Sounds good. But again, you have to look at the big picture. Go back to July of 2016, 170 homes on the market. Now 78 homes. You need more homes. And the pending ratio, we're going to look at that next. That pending ratio will tell us kind of what's the pulse of the market, right? The easy way for y'all to tell what's happening in your local market is to come to my page or come to my website, look at the data section here, and you can look at this barometer or whatever gauge and look at, hey, what's this number? If it's over 1, means it's more of a seller's market. Under 1, it's leaning to a buyer's market. So the low number under 1 would be a really strong buyer's market. But this one's a 1.03, meaning right now sellers are still kind of calling the shots. But look in 2020 what was going on, Rob. 2.12 on the pending ratio back in 2020. That means for every home that was listed, there were 2.12 buyers, more than 2 buyers for every home listed ready to buy. That is a market where sellers are in complete control. So that is Xenia's supply and demand situation. Whoops, let me look at prices. Let's look at home prices. What are they doing? $262,000. That's the typical home price. Now, is that up or down? Let's look. That's up 5% from last year. 5%. So again, a lot of these markets are still growing with prices. That's going to keep the underwater mortgage percentage down. It's going to, because prices grow and then your value is higher than your mortgage, in theory, right? And let's look at, we want to do underwater next, right? So I'll go to PropStream. Now, you don't have access to this probably unless you pay for it. This is not my service. This is a service I subscribe to. But if I go to your zip code and look at how many homes are underwater in just your zip code, it's 472 right now. So there are homes underwater in their mortgage, right? Let's look at this one and see if we can tell. So this one's on the market right now for $349, but $349,000, sorry. This says its estimated value, though, is $238,000. So it uses an estimated value to find out, hey, are you underwater or not? Now, if they sell for $349,000, they should be okay. Looks like it needs some work. Is it worth the price they're charging? I don't know. I don't know that market, but they're out there. And if you use a software like PropStream, like I'm using right now, you can identify these opportunities. I don't make any money from them, at least not yet. And I'm not sponsored by them, but I just use their software, and it's kind of a good way to look around. In some cases, this is crazy, this system's better than the MLS I use as a professional realtor. I mean, this system has aspects to it that beat the MLS. But yeah, if I zoom out, I can see all these different properties that are underwater in that zip code. And when I filtered all these properties, targeting some of the largest counties, I noticed that most of the ones that are underwater bought after 2020. And a lot of them used a VA or FHA loan because they didn't put any money down. So if you're going to buy and you're going to put it, you're going to use an FHA or VA loan or USDA loan, you're not going to put a lot down, and consult a mortgage professional. I'm a realtor, not a mortgage professional. But from what I know and from my own experience, if you're not going to put a lot down, expect that you're not going to have equity for a while, probably. Why would you? A normal market grows at 2 or 3%, not 10 or 15. That's when people were buying, and the next year their home's worth another 10 grand or 15 or 20 or 50 grand. Those days are gone. That's what's happening in Xenia. Thanks for joining. What's next? What do we got? 45066. You got to tell me if you're buying or selling. And that's what I need to know to review it. What's up, Jackie? 43044. Let's take a look, find out what's happening. Give me a thumbs up too if you're in this live stream. Share this with someone else in the live stream while you're watching. I'm putting all this work in. Please share it with another Ohioan and say, hey, Housing Nerd is live. He's analyzing zip codes. Jump on and check this out. That helps the channel and it helps get more people involved. 43044, let's look at the data. Woodstock. There's no listings there. I'm going to have to go out, Jackie, to a county level here. I'm not going to be able to look at your zip code. There's just not any activity. That's the problem. There's nothing to analyze. And it happens, right, in these smaller zip codes. It's in Champaign County. The entire county, look at that. 59 listings, Jackie. You only have 59 homes on the market, and you are selling, right? You said looking to sell in the spring. Yeah, so if you're selling in is it Champaign or Champaign? I think it's Champaign County, right? Lived here long enough, I think I'd know that. But 59 homes on the market. And look back in 2016, there were 209 homes on the market. This tells me right now that you don't have a lot of competition out there when you're trying to sell. You shouldn't anyway. I mean, the entire county, there's only 59 homes for sale. And that really hasn't changed that much. I mean, you hit a low of 42 homes in 2021. But like you just haven't really grown your inventory. And look at your pending ratio, 1.03%. And if you guys stick around and we continue to do these live streams, you continue to tune in, you'll start to understand more about what these numbers mean. But look at the pending ratio. If I click it now and look how it's trended, you're at 1.03 now. Sellers still have the controls, right? Overall, they do. But in 2020, it was 1.89. So it was higher, meaning sellers definitely had control of the market. It was more of a seller's market. They could, ask, they could price their home where they wanted to pretty much, and buyers would pay it. They could tell the buyer, I'm not going to fix anything, no concessions. And oftentimes they had a lot of multiple offers, right, come up. So those days have changed. You can see the pending ratio fall, now 1.03. And look back in 2016. Remember how much inventory you had in 2016? And that previous chart, you had, how many did you have? Let me go back and look real quick. You had 209, way elevated, right? Now, if I go back to that pending ratio, look at this, 0.22 in 2016. Notice the correlation? Well, you had low demand. It means for every home listed, there wasn't even a half a buyer. So there were tons of sellers, not a lot of buyers. That's what that basically means, because you had a lot of inventory. But that is flip-flopped, right? And now the tables were turned during COVID, many more buyers than sellers, and now it's kind of coming back to reality of some sort. So if you're selling, you should still be able to do well, but price it right. Price it right out of the gate. Don't be greedy. If you price it too high in this market, it will punish you. The market will let you know because people will just ignore your listing. That's what happens when you price it too high. You're like, hey, is this on Zillow? Are we actually getting views? Right? Maybe it's the yard sign, or I need to do a Facebook ad, or let me see, it's the pictures. No, it's the price. It's the price. That's what it is. So price it right, Jackie. All right, let's look at the distress. Where you are. 43044. See if there's any data. $76 homes just in your zip code, 43044, underwater. So they're there. There's no doubt. And by the way, inside of PropStream, you can also look at tax delinquency. There's 243 tax delinquencies. There's bankruptcies. 0 pre-foreclosures. But yeah, PropStream has all that. Let's look at one of these and see if we can find out what's happening. Let me go to upside down. That's what that is. And now let me go to this one. Here's a vacation home, seasonal cabin. Looks like somebody just bought it. Somebody just bought it in July. $415,000, 25 days on market. Probably a pretty cool place. They paid $415,000. The algorithm from PropStream says it's worth $379,000. They owe $393,000, hence underwater, right? Home is worth basically $14,000, $15,000 less than they owe. Again, when you first buy, that's normal. That happens, right? It does. It may take some time for that to flip around and you actually have equity. That's how most, again, that's how most housing markets should function. Like you shouldn't be able to buy a house, just a normal house, buy it at market price, and then the next year it's, you make a bunch of money on it. And if you haven't done anything. And if you put 20% down, do you have the equity? Well, you do on paper, but you put the 20% down, so like it's kind of a wash. So anyway, that's what's happening with underwater loans, underwater mortgages. All right, next one. Who's next? Damien. I have a seller going through that right now in 44706. Oh, a short sale? Is that what you're talking about? Are you an agent? Yeah, we're going to see more of those, Damien. Like, I think we will as agents. I think short sales have been like non-existent, but I'm finding them. We're in Texas and Florida. I was looking yesterday with my national folks on the Housing Nerd channel when I do this on Thursdays, and there were short sales all over the place. Like it was like every listing we looked at randomly was a short sale. Because prices there in Florida and Texas, in some areas have crashed. I mean, we're looking at areas that were down 20, 22% in prices in the last few years. That hasn't happened in Ohio yet. And it may not because of inventory. OFA is what's killing her. You're talking about down payment assistance. Yeah, right? She's got 2 loans essentially, right? What Damien's talking about sounds like he's an agent or she's an agent. I don't know. But it sounds like you had a client that basically was upside down because they had 2 loans, 1 loan for the down payment, 1 loan for the home. When you borrow everything to buy the home, expect you're not going to have any equity. Like if you're using an FHA, VA, USDA loan, you should plan to be in your house for 7 to 10 years. And if anybody tells you, this is a warning for you Ohio housing nerds, if anybody tells you, marry the house and date the rate, you pack your stuff and run as fast as you can away from them. Because the thing you should ask them is, how's that turned out for everybody over the last 3 or 4 years? Oops, rates haven't come down. So if you marry the house and date the rate, that may be like a relationship from hell. So hey, buy your home anticipating rates aren't coming down, that you have to keep your rate the way you have it forever. And then if they come down and you can refi, great. But do not just buy your house on the hopes and dreams that the rate's coming down, because we don't know. Bind, Leo, what up? Leo Lenny, 72 44906. Here we go. Mansfield. I know Mansfield well. All right, we got 39 active listings and you're buying, right? So you got a little more inventory to pick from, Leo. Not a ton, but you have a little more. Again, look back in 2016, you had 87. So while you have a little more than you did in COVID, Like in 2021, you had 16 listings. And then you've increased now to 39, although you are down year over year, just one listing, not a big deal. But look at that pending ratio. Look at that, 0.59. That tells me, as a buyer, you probably have more leverage than you did during this time period when it was 1.38. That's when sellers had all the control. Now, not as much. And this is a warning if you are, I guess, if you're thinking of selling soon. It depends on what market you're in. They're all different. But look at this. Look at this pending ratio, 0.05. There were basically no buyers back in 2016 in this zip code, 44906 in Mansfield. In 2016, in July, buyers were, for the most part, non-existent. Now, we were just coming out of the great financial crisis, and the real estate market was just trying to recover. And obviously, inventory, as you saw, right? Inventory was higher right here. No surprise. Oh, days on market. Yeah, look at days on market. Haven't been showing this today, but back in 2016, when you had a lot of inventory in Mansfield, 57 days. That's the highest it's been in 10 years, right? Now you're at 47 days. My point is, homes were rotting on the market back then. And you can tell by that pending ratio, no demand. And now that pending ratio is 0.59. So at least there is some demand. You should be able to get some type of should be some opportunity out there. Now, there's not a lot of inventory, but it means that that buyers have some leverage. So take your time when you're looking for your home. Single family home value, $168,000 right now. That's basically the highest July ever recorded for you. Last year was 159. That's up 5.3%. So home prices have gone up 5%. Now let's look at your distress, 44906. $331 properties in your zip code alone are underwater in their mortgage. And a lot of these were just purchased. I mean, look at this, 2024, 2026, 2026, 2026, 2026. That makes sense, right? If you just bought, you're probably going to be underwater. Let's look at this one, though. Last sale, 2023. It's active right now for $354,000. Doesn't look like a short sale. It says they owe 200 or 359 grand. They say the estimated value is 352. That's why this algorithm is picking up that it's underwater. But there looks like they're selling. I don't know what will happen. Maybe they bring money to closing, but they're selling close to where the mortgage balance is estimated. And again, this isn't an exact science, right? It could be slightly off. You always have to triple check it. Yeah, they bought back in 2023, they bought for 300,000. So is this really 359? Maybe not. But it's generally it's just a direction, right? That's all we're looking for. You have to dial in the details, obviously, before you make an offer. Boy, all these are for sale. This one was sold. This one was just sold for $185,000. I'm looking for a short sale. Like one that's going through a short sale to show you what it looks like. And all these are on the market. This property is agent owned. You can tell that, right? Owned by an actual realtor. '93 Parkwood in Mansfield. I'm just trying to find one that's actually underwater. I'll look at one more and then I'll give up. And all these are on the market. This is not, doesn't look like a short sale either. Oh, it just sold. for $151,000. So no wonder they're underwater, right? They owe 212, and that's what it says. Maybe they did a renovation loan. That's always possible too. Anyway, good way to find an opportunity, Leo. I mean, is using prop stream, and you can get a 7-day trial, or you can just use it for a month or something. It's $120 a month, I think. You can use it for a month and then, get rid of it. But it's a good way to find an opportunity. All right, give me a thumbs up if I helped you out. Let's do another one. Oh, you got one there, Evil Overlord. I love looking at these properties. 1585 Kent Street. I'm going to come back to this. I'm going to start and come back if I have some time at the end. I want to review these zip codes for folks. Who else has a zip code? Drop it below. I have an unusual low number of requests today. 43125. Let's look at this one. John, I usually want you to tell me if you're buying or selling, but I don't have a lot of requests right now, so 43125. Groveport. All right. We got 23 active listings. That's all. I don't want to go to a county level because that'll give me all of Franklin County, which is not what I probably want. Right? That's in Franklin County, right? I assume it is. Yeah, obviously. So I'll do this and just look at, I usually don't analyze stuff under 30, but under 30 active listings, but we'll try it. Right now, you've got 23 active listings. Last year, you had 16. So you are growing your listings. I mean, you're up 43% in the number of homes for sale. But look at the pending ratio, 0.87. Look at that. That tells me that buyers are definitely gaining leverage. And, oh, man, like, this is crazy data. Back in 2020, it was 3.29 on your pending ratio. Right now, it's 0.87. So back in 2020, there were 3 buyers for every home that was listed. Think about that. You list a home, and there are 3 people ready to buy in the area, in the zip code. That is a feeding frenzy. That is a strong seller's market. That changed, obviously, come back down to earth, and now you're at a 10-year low of demand. So it is definitely starting to slide more to buyers. The lower this number gets, the more of a buyer's market it is. The higher, the more of a seller's market. So watch this, whether you're buying or selling, I don't know what you're doing. If you're buying and this number keeps coming down, good news for you. If it goes up, good news if you're a seller. Basically how I look at that. So then I go to single family home value, $313,000. And let's see, how much is that up from last year? Okay, so here's a zip code, folks, where it's only up 0.5%. Look at that. Price is only up 0.5% in Groveport. That's barely any growth. Definitely under inflation, right? So from a real adjusted basis, it's negative, meaning if I took into account a 3.5% inflation rate or 4% inflation rate, whatever the government tells us that is, even though we know it's a lot higher, is, I mean, you know, the prices are decreasing compared to inflation by, 3% maybe a year where you are. And look at this I always think this is kind of interesting. Back in July of 2019, prices were $191,000 on your typical house in Groveport. Now, $313,000, that's up 63%. So if you bought back here, unless you refi, right? If you refi like today and you pull all the equity out of your home, it's possible you're underwater. But if you didn't, the chances of you being underwater are low because your prices went up, values went up 63.5% since 2019. I mean, you can just see how the prices just went straight up. If I go from the low, if I go all the way back to 2012, which is when really prices bottomed in Ohio during the great financial crisis, homes were 116 grand. Well, now again, they're 313. That's $170,000 in value growth. Prices are up 170%, not $170,000, sorry, 170% from 2012. Holy shnikes. All right, let's look at some distress in Groveport. 43125. Let's do it. So for this, I go to PropStream. Can't use my website for this one. I don't have this data yet. But here's one. Let's look at one that they bought. Somebody bought in like 2022, maybe. Here's one. This doesn't say it's a short sale. This is in Groveport, 4822 Elmont Place. It looks like it was listed for $320,000. Look at how many days it's at. 379. It's sat for over a year. And that happens. It happens. Happens to a lot of people. Not because, just because sometimes the market functions like that and life happens, right? I mean, sometimes people make bad decisions, but a lot of times life happens. You got to move, death in the family, divorce, job change. The estimated balance on the loan's 286. So they're close to, just from a sales standpoint, they're close to being underwater. Now, they couldn't sell it at 320. PropStream is saying the value's 283. That's why they're underwater. And I just caught this too. Look at it looks like they're in foreclosure. It looks like there was a foreclosure filing on the property. So again, I'm seeing this distress that we haven't seen in Ohio in a long time. I'm starting to see it kind of pop through the surface, which honestly is probably not a bad thing because a market needs good and bad to be healthy. You can't have all good, right? You got to have a cycle. There's got to be. And the government has kept us out of cycles in financial markets completely, especially the housing market. They're like, we'll do anything we can to keep it going. I mean, right now they're tapping the Treasury account for the U.S. to buy treasuries so that interest rates don't keep going up. Instead of just going, you know what, they're probably going to go up. We just got to let things bust and reset. Nope, higher for longer. Anyway, that's what's happening in Groveport. You definitely have opportunities. I mean, there's 91 homes underwater. If you're looking to buy, you definitely could go out and find an opportunity probably on a short sale. In some markets, right? In other markets, no. And you're buying. Good. That should have helped. If it did, give me a thumbs up. Draken. Oh, you're viewing this today. Oh boy, that should be interesting. 521 East Johnstown Road. Well, let's look at 43230 first. Now, if you have an agent, which I assume you do, or maybe it's an open house, I don't want to step on their toes. So I'm going to give you some guidance, but you should work with your realtor you're working with. Don't, I don't want to contradict or confuse you at all. 43230. Well, this says Gahanna, but you said Johnstown, right? Oh, Johnstown Road, my bad, in Gahanna. Okay. Yeah, I know Gahanna well. 69 listings right now. That's not a 10-year high of inventory, but you have more than last year. I mean, inventory's up nearly 50%, which from 47 to 69 listings, it's not like it's, thousands of listings, but it is up. It is up. Now, back in 2016, it was 90 days. I'm sorry, 90 days. 90 listings back in 2016. And your pending ratio still tells me it's a seller's market. I mean, if you look back in 2021, 2020, it was over 2, the pending ratio. This pending ratio was over 2. Means every listing, there were at least a couple buyers in line, if not more. There's 2.5 buyers back in 2021. So that pending ratio fell. The demand has been falling, right? As supply has been growing. That's why that pending ratio comes down. 1.10 right now. Sellers still probably calling the shots for the most part, but they're not getting anything they want anymore. It's not a complete feeding frenzy. Although a place like Gahanna is probably going to continue to do well, right? Because of the lack of overall move-in ready, maybe houses that are renovated. That's what I've seen out there anyway. Let's look at price. What's happening with prices there? $378,000 is the typical home value in Gahanna, 43230. And if I look how much that's up 2.6%. So prices still are growing. Again, under inflation. So if I'm on a real basis, they're actually negative, but on a nominal basis on this chart at face value, up 2.6%. Homes are more expensive than they were this time last year. Now let's look at, see if there's anything happening with distress at all. 43230. Let's look. Oops. There we go. What do we got? 263 properties underwater. And just find one of these. This is interesting. Here's one that was bought in 1983, right? Nope, it's active right now, but it was bought in 1983. This says the estimated value is 425 and the estimated loan balance is 613. But it doesn't say it's a short sale. It's kind of strange. I'm seeing a lot of this in Ohio today where the data is not driving like it did yesterday. When I look nationally, 307. Okay, so here's one where they say the estimated loan balance, this is 622 Piney Glen Drive, says the balance is 307, $307,000, and they're selling it for 305. They actually did sell it. Somebody actually did buy it. So maybe they didn't get a lot of equity out of it. Right? Any type of, like, they didn't walk away with much, maybe. But you had just given me a property. Let's look at that. 521 East Johnstown Road. Here we go. Is this it right here? Right. This says it's off market. Oh, for sale. 8 days on the market. 389,900. Doesn't tell me their mortgage balance. Maybe they don't have one. Is this it? 521 East Johnstown. Let me just double check the address. Yeah, that's it. It looks like a nice house. I mean, from the sky. I don't have any pictures. I'm not going to go in here and analyze like any more than that on this because I don't want to step on your realtor's toes unless you don't have one. And if you don't, you need help, call me. My contact information is on my website. So just go to my website, click contact, fill out the info, and then I'll get back to you. Again, I don't want to step on their toes. And there's not a lot of history here, so I can't tell much from it. Yeah, here it is. Coming soon, 389,900. And so I can't tell you if that's a good deal or not because I haven't analyzed the actual comps yet. You have to do that to understand the actual, the individual home. But directionally, it looks like sellers are still in control in your market. So it doesn't mean you can't submit a low offer. It just means the chances of it getting accepted are not as good as if the market was favoring buyers, right? That's what that means. All right, let's do the next one. Thanks, Draken. Lone Alexander, what's up? Hey, Jason, hope you're doing well. We're looking to buy in 44233. Hinckley and Richfield. 44233. Let's take a look. I only have 12 listings there. Let me check your other zip code. I may have to use the county. 44233 and 44286. 8586. Richfield. How many we got there? Just 11. Shoot. See, I'm going to have to use the county level. It's Summit County. So I'm going to use Summit County. Where was your other zip code? Where was that? 44233. Let me just double check that one. Oh, that's in Medina County. So let's use Medina County because I think I did. Summit County is a lot larger, so maybe this one will give you a better look because it's a smaller county. 244 homes on the market right now. Last year, 240. Barely growth at all in active inventory. In fact, you haven't really grown your inventory overall in the last few years. You haven't. Just haven't grown it. Again, look back in, this is insane. Look back in 2016, we had 729 homes on the market. Folks, if you see your local Ohio housing neighborhood with inventory just skyrocketing upwards, and you got to, like, in Medina County, if we reached this level of homes on the market, you would have massive price decline. You would. You would have price decline. Unless demand picks up significantly. But right now, that's not the reality. Right now, the active inventory is very small. Still. And why is that? People go, why don't we have the inventory? Because we don't build. We do not build enough homes in Ohio. They basically shut off the faucet with home building after 2012, 2010 or so. They just shut off the home building. And so where are you going to get inventory? Santa Claus, Easter Bunny? I don't know. Can't find it. I mean, somebody's going to either have to pass away or move or sell their home and move somewhere else, right? But beyond that, the inventory, you have to build it. So, yeah, this is, this is the tale of the supply destruction in our state. All right, that's active listings. Let's do pending ratio. So you can see it. It sits up here the whole time. Pending ratio doesn't move. It sits up here. So as you look at these other stats, whatever you're looking at, you can kind of go back and go, okay, what's the pending ratio? What's the supply-demand equilibrium? Right now, 1.27. That is a little higher. In fact, right now, Medina County, is that right? 1.27. I got to check something. Hang on. This is surprising. This is surprising. Yeah, that's right. Medina County, look at this. 1 out of 88 counties, meaning they have the highest current pending ratio of any other county. Now, there's zip codes that are higher, but Medina County has the most, basically the highest demand out of any other county if you just look at a county level look on the pending ratio. So I'd put this in here, the ranking. So it's first out of 88 counties. Back in 2021, it was 2 buyers for every listing. Much more demand. But sellers are still calling the shots. Back in 2016, it was 0.25. No demand. No demand. Let's look at prices. $362,000. Last year was $348,000. So you're up 4% in prices. Prices are still going up at least 4% a year right now, or values are. That's going to keep that underwater mortgage, folks. That's going to keep them lower. And you're selling, right? Oh, you're buying. But you're buying, yeah. So you're going to have to just, there doesn't look like there's a lot of choices. You probably know that. And sellers are probably still calling the shots. Here you can see where you're ranked. 362,000 from a county level is 7th most expensive county in the state. That's what that means. You're ranked 7th out of 88. And I have this ranking for all metrics pretty much built in here. Again, you come to my website, jasonferrier.com, go to data, and you can access all this for free. All right, let's go to your, I'm using 44286, so let's go to prop stream, and then we'll look at that. All right. Oh, 286, my bad. 286. What's happening in 44286? And that's Richfield, right? You got 44 homes underwater right now. 44. So they do exist. That's the point of that, right? Not everybody doesn't, you know, have a ton of equity. This particular house, 4471 Forest Brook Court, says the value was $1.23 million, and their estimated mortgage balance is $1,251,000. So they're slightly, like 22 grand underwater. That's what it says. Looks like it's for sale. It actually just sold for 1.395. So they made some money, right? Yeah, last sale, 1.395 million. 5 bed, 6 bath. Only 3,000 square feet. Must be a big lot. Must be a big lot. Big lot, big lot. What about, let's see, last sale. Let's look at this one. Estimated mortgage balance. This is on Deer Creek in Richfield, $1.3 million. That's the estimated mortgage balance. Value is estimated at $910,000. So it's saying this website is saying that they're underwater by 320 grand. No surprise because they bought. Yeah, wow. Looks like they bought last year. So yeah, some of these are just upside down. No way to, you know, it's just the way it is, I guess. Right? Good and bad. Good and bad. All right. Let's go back to the map. It looks like a hot market where you are. Yeah, looks like sellers are in control. Yeah, it looked a little challenging for a buyer right now. I mean, it's not as bad as it was, though. Right? A few years ago. It's not like 2021. Ah, right here. What's up, Chris? Chris H. 44512 and surrounding areas. Let's look at 44512. Where is that? In Mahoning County, Boardman. Let me look at active inventory. How many do you have? 70. We can use that. 70 listings. Last year, 65. So you got 5 more listings. You're buying, right? Yep. So you got more to choose from. That's what it means as a buyer. Hey, I've got more inventory. Good news. But just like every zip code and county we examine in Ohio, look at this, 192 active listings back in 2016. So you've lost over half of your inventory since then. And again, in a place like Boardman, 44512, you tell me, Chris, are they building a lot of homes? Yes? No? I can tell you for the county in a minute how many they're building, but I have that data. But like in your zip code, do you see a lot of new builds? Probably not. Maybe you do, but in most cases, no. So it's like, where's this inventory going to come from? People have to sell in order to produce inventory. And the pending ratio is 0.94. You can see it right here. means what? It's still close. It's pretty much still a seller's market, but that gauge is starting to slip a little towards the buyer. But it's not like it was, back in 2016 when it was 0.19. Buyers were calling the shots 100%. I mean, you could probably go and visit houses, go look at a home, and the same thing would be on the market in 30 days from now. And you could just offer what you wanted. And if they didn't take it, you just move to another one. And then that first one calls you back a week later. Hey, you still interested? We rethought our position. Maybe we'll take your offer. And look back in 2021, the ratio was nearly 2. And sellers at that point had all the control. So the market has changed drastically. Drastically. As it always does, and it should. You got to have that cycle. Let's look at prices. Home value, $209,000 in Boardman. Last year, it was $199, sorry. This year, $209. That's up 5%. So last year was $199 in July. This July, $209, according to Zillow. That's up 5%. And you got to remember, nationally, we're only up like 1% in prices. In some areas, in some data providers, depending on who you're looking at, we're like up 0.5%. Nobody's negative yet from a year-over-year price standpoint nationally. But if you're at 5% growth, that's completely different than the national picture. Nationally, barely growing. And some areas are falling a lot, like 5, 6, 10% per year. But prices in Boardman, higher for longer. Let's look at your market and see where there's any distress there. 44512. $320 properties. I forgot to do this before, but I wonder how many total properties you have. 16,000 total properties, and 320 of those are upside down. The point is they do exist, right? And they could present opportunities for buyers. And if you're selling in a market where you see more and more underwater mortgages, it could be a warning that you should think about selling sooner than later. Eventually, this will lead to distress if these people are underwater and need to sell, right? This one. This one right here was last purchased in 2011. Looks like a decent little ranch home. Says they owe $285,000. Estimated value $269. What are they selling it for? $279. So it's very close. Very close to what they owe, it looks like. Maybe they have to bring some money to closing, I don't know, to satisfy the lender. Otherwise, it's a short sale, right? But it doesn't say a short sale, so I doubt it is. It's probably just very close to what they owe. Yep, all kinds of opportunities out there, folks. All kinds, if you look hard enough. They are all over the place. All right, what's next? Now, again, if you want me to analyze your housing market, drop your zip code below. Let me know if you're buying or selling. That will help me guide the discussion. I hope that helped, Chris. If it did, give me a thumbs up. Thanks for joining us. Bernadette, there are many homes currently being built in Medina, Ohio. 44256. 44256. Did I do that one? I don't think I have. Let's find out. It's 113 listings. You got a decent number of homes, being hitting the market. Last year, 86. So it's up 31% in inventory. And you're saying that there are a lot of new homes built. So let's, for a second, go back to the county look. And I'm going to show you the permits, because I do have it by county. And I'll come back to your zip code in a minute. So if I look at Medina County, you've got 244 homes on the market. And then if I go to permits on the left-hand side, this says, this, and the way they classify this is how many permits are there for single-family homes per 1,000 residents. So it's a ratio to kind of give this, some type of comparison instead of saying, hey, there's this many homes. It's like, well, it's per 1,000 residents. So the higher this number, the more new homes they're building. Right now, it's 2.83 single-family homes being built. And this is as of last year. These are permits, so permitting for new homes. So right now, it's, basically you could call it maybe 3, just for rounding. 3 homes for every 1,000 people in your county. Now, is that a lot? Well, go back in time and look. And this is what I was talking about earlier, folks. Look at this in the 2000s. Shout out to Gen X. Like in 2002, it was 8, nearly 9. You see what I mean by shutting off the faucet on new building? Most people in Ohio have zero idea this is occurring. Most realtors have zero idea this is occurring. They think, oh, we're building tons of homes. It's like, no, we're not. Not even close. Back in 2002, they were building 9 homes for every 1,000 residents. Today, barely 3. And if you look at your ranking, you're 17th in Ohio out of 88 counties, meaning there are 16 counties building more than you are for every 1,000 residents. Now, at least you're not last. So, and I'll tell you, there are counties in Ohio where this is like nothing. They're not building anything. I mean, less than you. So at least you're building something. I mean, even in 2016, look at this. It was 4 homes per every 1,000 people. But it's nothing like it was in 2000. And you can see as like inventory grew and then the great financial crisis took hold, builders just shut off the faucet and we're like, we're not going to build at all. Let's look at multifamily permits. Doesn't look like they're building much of anything with multifamily. Anyway, that's the active listing situation and the permits. And you say there are homes there, so I wouldn't doubt you're seeing some. Let's go back to that zip code, though, and look. 44256. That was a county look, but let me go to Medina. Just in that zip code, you've got 113 listings. You've got the majority of the county listings, it looks like. And now let's look at the pending ratio. And you can see it right there, 1.11. So sellers in your area still are calling the shots. But in 2022, they had all the shots. And go look into July of 2016, 0.22. That was when there was no demand at all. Hence why the builders stopped building, right? So why aren't they building now? People are like, why aren't they building? Like, what's happening with that? Well, unfortunately, a lot of it has to do with the fact that interest rates are higher now, not lower. So builders know that, and not as many people can afford a home with the interest rates the way they are and the prices the way they are. So per square foot, new builds are more expensive, a lot more expensive, right? So you got the permitting, you've got the regulations, the infrastructure, the taxes, right? The property taxes as a builder, the insurance, everything that goes into running a business, it's just higher. And so they're not willing to build those homes for inventory if the demand's not there. And you can see the demand's falling right now. Although it is a seller's market still. Let's do single family home value. $400,000. That's where you are. Now, last year was 384. This year, 399. That's up 4%. Another market that is actually growing more than national numbers. And you're barely beating inflation, but at least you are. Year over year, you're up 4% in prices. Let's look real quick at underwater stuff in your area. Will we find anything? Who knows? That's why we look. What do we got? There are 598 homes underwater. Now, a lot of those could be new homes, right? Could be. Could be homes that were built in like 2020, 2021, 2022. Like this home, this looks like a nice place. La Villa Lane in Medina. 5-bed, 3.5 bath, 2,800 square feet. A lot of these are on the market. It's active right now for $699. So it looks like they're pretty close to selling it for what they owe. This says that they actually owe $743. Maybe they do. And they're bringing that money to closing. But right now it's for sale. It's been on the market 47 days. But according to PropStream, this software, it says that it's worth $634. That's why it's $109,000 underwater. And that doesn't mean the person has to sell it if they're underwater. It just means if they do sell it, they may have to bring something to closing, right? But y'all get that. Okay, that is Medina. Hope that helped. I hope that helped, Bernadette. If it did, give me a thumbs up. If it didn't, give me a thumbs up anyway, because at least I tried. Wanting to move out of 43119 and get about 10 acres, an hour or so less from Columbus. No preference on directions. Just looking for a good value for some space to have trees for neighbors. So are you selling, James? Yeah, let me know if you're selling or not. And then you asked another question here. How do I find good areas to look? Yeah, I understand what you're doing, and it makes sense, right? You want something very specific, right? You're looking for 10 acres. You want to be less than an hour from Columbus. I'll tell you what, this, again, and there's no cost for this at all. Go to my website, go to jasonferrier.com. So go to my website here. And then at the top, you can go to contact. And then put in your information and submit it. And let's set up a time to talk. And it doesn't cost anything except your time. And I'm happy to review what you're looking for and some ideas on how to find it. Even if you don't work with me, I'm not saying you have to hire me as a realtor. I'm saying just to give you some info. And then if we work together and it makes sense, great. But if we don't, that's okay too. I help people all the time that I never talk to again. And I like doing it. So hit me up and let's talk about what you're, more specifically what you're looking for, more than I can cover in the live stream. But you've got, but again, you know what you're looking, you have an idea. And a lot of people are in your boat, James. A lot of people are like, hey, I want some acreage. I want to be drivable to Columbus, but not on top of Columbus. So there are opportunities out there. Let's talk. Kathy, what up? Kathy Holmes. Does PropStream find properties with delinquent taxes? Do you start at noon every Friday? Yeah, every Friday on the Ohio channel. And good to see you, Kathy. I do start at noon, 12:15, right around there. And depending on clients, if I have a client I'm working with, obviously they take priority. But on Thursdays, it's a national channel, Friday, Ohio channel. They do have tax delinquency. So if I go to PropStream and share this screen, and then I was in zip code 44256 in Medina, and I click the filters, you can see right here, 690 tax delinquencies. And I can go to any zip code and find this. I can go to a county level and find it. And that, Kathy, is how I get this. So on my website, under data, that's how I get this, where I can look at tax delinquency percentage by county. That's how I can see that. And I can look at the number of tax delinquencies. So I took all that data from PropStream, and it's pulled from county records anyway. And then I dumped it into this map so you guys could take a look at it and see what's going on. So like in Franklin County, there's 20,091 tax delinquent properties. All that's in my my data for you to take a look at. So hit me up if you have any questions about it. But that's where I get it. I hope that answered what you were looking for. Hey, Jackie, you're welcome. Thank you for joining us. I'm glad I could help. That's what I'm trying to do today, is help you guys not not be bamboozled or hornswoggled in the housing market, because it's easy to do. It's easy to buy on emotion. It's easy to sell on emotion. There's very limited inventory and home prices have skyrocketed in Medina. I see that. And Cuyahoga counties. I agree, especially in select cities. It's the Wild West out here. I'm working right now, Lone Alexander. I'm working on with another Ohio podcast guy, Matt Deemer, who I've had on my channel a couple times. I've been on his channel, but we're looking at we're kind of looking at the transition of the inner city of Cleveland, especially Northeast Ohio, how everybody is moving out of the metro and into the suburbs and what that's doing to property taxes. So we're kind of working on that now, and it's pretty startling what we're finding. But Cuyahoga County is insane with the price growth. I mean, it just won't frickin' stop. Like, look at this. If I look at prices in Cuyahoga County, $229,000 doesn't sound like a lot. Look where it's traveled, though. I mean, it was 146 grand for a typical house in Cuyahoga County back in 2020. And now, 230. That's up 57%. 57%. But the other thing that I'm seeing is this. Look at the tax delinquent. 8.66% of all properties tax delinquent. And look how many there are. 51,193. Later today, I'm shooting a video about the tax lien sales and how Ohio counties are selling their tax liens to investors, out-of-state investors. What I found was nuts. So I'm shooting that after we're done with this. And then it'll be published here in a couple weeks. But yeah, Cuyahoga County, Medina County, it's nuts on the prices. They just keep going. And a lot of it has to do with inventory. All right. Thanks for checking in, though, Lone. 777. There's probably at least 6 or 7 large home and condo developments currently being built in Medina County. I would bet those numbers change drastically in the next year or two as those hit the market. Oh, you're talking about permit numbers. Yeah. So look, it's all from the U.S. Census Bureau. It's like, is that 100% accurate? Probably not. But it's the data that I have available, and it's for 2025. But those are permits, so you would think it would be directionally correct. Let's check, right? You just stay with me. I ain't going anywhere. And I'll keep tracking the data, and we'll find out. Ma Deuce, 44839. Let's look. What's up? How are you doing? You're right on the water. Nice. How are your active listings? 47. Back in July of 2021, you only had 18 listings. 18. Now you've got 47. So you're coming out of that hole. You're threatening to climb out of the cellar, as Bob Euchre said. 4483. Yeah, I just want to make sure I got the right zip code. And if I go back in time to July of 2016, you had 103 homes on the market. I mean, and that's down how much? I mean, that's down 54% since 2016, which is not even conceivable. About half your inventory gone, vanished, maybe never to return unless there's something catastrophic in the housing market. Let's look at the pending ratio, the pulse of the market. Is it a seller's market, a buyer's market? This says it's more of a buyer's market where you are, Madus. I mean, your pending ratio peaked at 1.56 back in 2021. Sellers in control. And now buyers are more in control. You see the little gauge right here, right? Buyers are more in control. Just means there's not even one buyer for every listing. I mean, back in 2016, when you had all that inventory, it was 0.39. So buyers even had more advantage then. And you said you're thinking about selling, right? Is that right? Selling. So as a seller in a market like this, you just have to price it. You have to, if you want to sell it quickly, you're going to have to give them a reason to come look at it and buy it, right? And make an offer. Now, your home may have something other homes do not have. But if it doesn't, and it's like, well, it's like some other homes out there, look at where they're listed, look at what closed very recently, as close to you as possible. Be realistic. Don't be greedy. Make sure it's cleaned up on the outside, cleaned up on the inside. Make sure it doesn't smell. Make sure it's lit well, that the clutter's gone. That's all stuff you can do for free. And then pricing it right doesn't cost you any money either. So study the market locally to you. Just grab Zillow. Something simple as Zillow. You don't need fancy software. And this doesn't tell you the listings, right? This just gives you like the numbers for the market. So go to Zillow, go in, set up a search for yourself within a quarter-mile radius, further out if you need to. But you want to stick with most recent sales versus older sales. Even if you have to go out a little bit from where you live to find the right opportunity. I'm sorry, to find the right comparable sale. Find 3 or 4 that match what you have, that have closed, and then average them out. And that'll give you a direction. It may not be exact where you should list it, but it's going to give you a direction. And then be realistic. If you overprice it, the market will make you pay. So price it correctly. Give them a compelling reason to come see your listing. All right. Good stuff. One, 9, 6, 5. Gen X Tomcat. Not seeing anything for private family owners or low-income family, even trailers and trailer courts overpriced Trumbull County. Yeah. I feel you, man. I mean, I call everybody man, by the way. Let's look at Trumbull County. Like, the problem you have, and this chart tells you everything you need to know about what you just said. It tells you everything you need to know. Like in one shot, I can save myself a lot of energy and you a lot of listening to me babble. If I just showed you this one chart sometimes, like you're saying private family owners or low income families, even in trailers. Agreed. Look at there are no listings, and you haven't really grown them much. I mean, they went down to 37 houses in the entire county for sale. And now they're at 66, which you're like, oh, 37 to 66. Okay, that's an increase of 78%. Oh, sounds great. But look back in 2016, you had 191. And so it's no surprise the pending ratio is 0.9. That means that sellers still were calling the shots. So there's nothing for sale. And unless they're building homes in Trumbull County, there may not be things for sale for a long time. Like, are they building? Let's find out. Looks like there's 1 home built for every 1,000 residents. That's not very good. Now, look back in 1996. Speaking of Gen X, 6 homes for every 1,000 people. Remember, we looked at Medina County. It was 9 homes for every 1,000 residents were being constructed or being permitted back in, late 1900s, I guess. Sounds strange to say that. But that was 6 in your county. And then builders just turned off the faucet. And it's been pretty much low ever since. It's not 0, but it's dang close to it. So then you have to ask yourself, why would, where's the inventory going to come from? How's this chart going to go up? Because without things to buy, unless the demand completely leaves your market, nobody wants to buy a home. even with 66 listings, prices may not ever stabilize. They may continue to go up incrementally for a long, long time, and you may not be able to find an affordable place. I mean, look at this trajectory. It's straight up. It's like an elevator. Back in 2020, homes were 147 grand in Preble County, Preble County. But now they're 62% more expensive at $238,000. Now, if it went up 100 grand and it was $1 million home in Delaware County, not a big deal. Not that much of an increase. I mean, it is an increase, but it's not the end of the world. But when it goes up nearly $100,000 in a county where the prices are 147, locals are priced out. They're priced out. This is the result of U.S. monetary policy basically running way hot for way too long. I mean, while home prices were going up in 2020, 2022, in 2020 through 2022, when home prices were going up, before they raised the interest rates, they should have done it sooner. They should have raised them a lot sooner, but they didn't. And so people had access to free money and they could buy anything. And they did. And that's why prices went up. So this is just, it may take a long time for you to recover. I hate to say it. If you're looking to buy a home, you want inventory, you may have to go to another area of Ohio or another state. I don't know. Very challenging to find something. So I feel you, man. I do. I see this a lot. It's sad. It really is. Thanks for your comment. New construction for seniors in Eaton, Ohio. Oh boy, but little for average Joe. Yeah, right? I mean, there's tons of boomers that are aging out. Because of that, they're going to certainly have they're going to want to fill that need. Jason, what do you think is going to happen in interest rates? It looks like they're dropping a bit, but probably in time for November midterm. You think they'll rise next year? I think that a great question. What are they right today? I think, let's look before I speak. I looked at them yesterday, but it's always fun to look. What we got? 676 right now, right? You can see on the chart right here that, they peaked at 794 back in 2023. And you're right, they have drifted down somewhat, but over the last year, they've gone back up. So they're really not down that much. I mean, they're down from nearly 8%. But the problem is that Lone Alexander, that the bond market's in control of what's happening right now. It's not the Fed. It's the bond market. The bond market knows, they know that inflation is going to keep going up. So when the Fed tries to get cute, or government officials or leaders like Scott Bessent try to buy treasury bills with government money, basically buying their own debt, right? When they're doing that, the bond market knows, and the bond market's the one that sets the 10-year treasury, right? And the 10-year treasury pretty much controls mortgage rates. The bond market's like, no, you can cajole and manipulate and try anything you want, bro, but I am not going to buy into this. I know that when you print money, when you artificially change the interest rates or try to change them, I am going to punish you with higher rates because I know inflation is going to get higher. So this probably drives Scott and Donald nuts. This probably drives them insane that they can't get that 10-year lower. Because mortgage rates, if you unless you've been sleeping under a rock for the past few years, like Lone Alexander said, they've been high and they may not come down. They may not. I don't project interest rates are going to come down for, we may be stuck in this range for years. And honestly, 6, 7 is not really that high historically. But recency bias tells us that it needs to be 1 or 2 or 3 or 4%. But historically, it's like in like, I don't know, it's in the high sixes, I think. So right now it's kind of normal, but it's a shock. I just don't think they're going to come down that much. I don't. If the US falls into a recession, a massive recession, then they will print. They will probably allow banks, and they may even start buying mortgage-backed securities then, more so than they have done in the past, to lower that, to lower the mortgage rate. It's possible. It's probable. I mean, they're not going to like just sit by if rates go completely nuts and the recession happens. They're going to print and do everything they can to artificially bring it down instead of letting it correct. And then we'll be all talking about this again in 5 or 10 or 5, 7, 10 years. Huh? They shouldn't have done that. They should have let it crash. Now it's worse. Anyway, that's what's happening. Thanks for asking. You can tell I'm salty about that. Can you tell me anything about auditor sales? Yeah, sure. You can go to auditor stuff. Sure. I go here almost every day and look at this. Licking County auditor sales. You go to so if you're not familiar with this, folks, great way to maybe find an opportunity, even if you want to live in the house, is you go to your county auditor in Ohio, look for the county sheriff sales, and they list the actual properties that they're auctioning off because of foreclosure. They list them here. And then you actually have to go and register to bid. And I think it's online only in most counties now. So you would go to their online auction and bid. Most of the time, like if I look here, see, you can register. And then this tells you how many they're selling and at what date. There's not that many right now. We probably see a lot more coming up. Whoops. But there's not a ton. But you can register and then bid online, is how it typically works. Make sure you do your research on these homes, though. Don't bid just blindly. I've heard stories of people bidding on homes that they were burnt. And it's just a lot, right? And they don't know because they never bothered to go look at it. And most of these you can't go into on the sheriff's auction. Like you can't go in and actually look at them. So you got to you're going to roll the dice, right? Go to YouTube, type in how to buy a foreclosure and educate yourself. Great stuff. All right, I got a few more minutes here. I'll keep going. Yeah, the veggie cat. Property taxes add to making a house unsellable. You're absolutely correct. Absolutely. Great call. Like, it's pretty extraordinary right now. Every deal I look at as an investor, every single deal gets blown up because of property taxes. Every single deal. They're just, from an investor standpoint, they just don't make sense. It's not fun. It's not fun. Happy Friday, Jason. Any chance you have time to do 43950? Sure. 43950. If you have a zip code you want me to look at, drop it down in the comments. Hopefully I can get to it. I don't know how much longer I'll go. Depends on how many requests I get and how interactive y'all are. St. Clairsville. I used to live in Shadyside. And there was a pizza spot that my cousin owned in St. Clairsville, DeCarlo's Pizza. Best pizza I've ever had. Look at this. 40 active listings right now. 40 active listings. Strength, that's what I'll call you. And you're up 25% with active listings, but you will have only grown at 8. Not really that many. And again, go back into history. You had 76 in 2025. Shoo. Let's look at that pending ratio. It looks like it's more of a buyer's market than not. I mean, your market actually has been pretty steady. It didn't even get over 1. So that demand, I saw that kind of in the Ohio Valley, is the demand was not like it was in Central Ohio or Cleveland or Cincinnati. It's kind of just steady, and it is. It's like steady Eddie. So not feverish demand, but there is demand, right? There is. Let's look at prices. How are prices doing there? $209,000. Last year they were 203,000. That's an increase of 3%. 3%. So, one thing you look at this map, or on this chart, and you can see that like what you don't see, rather, strength, if you pay attention to this, is that there's not like an elevator up, right? It's more of just a steady increase. You're not seeing like it doesn't look like you're seeing a year where home prices went up like 30% in your market. That would be what a lot of markets saw, and that's why prices outran a lot of the income. And I'm not saying it's cheap where you are, but prices didn't like skyrocket. So what did they go up from July of 2020? Yeah, they're only up 30% from July of 2020, which sounds like a lot, but over 6 years, that's 5%. It's better than 10% or 20%. And your pending ratio reflects that because it doesn't seem like it traveled that much. Looks like a steady market. Still some demand, and you're gaining a little bit of inventory. 43950. Let's look at underwater loans. Goodness, there's a lot there. 1,117 properties underwater, according to this data from PropStream. And how many total properties do you have there? Wow, that's 10%. That's not 10%, but it's like 8% or so. You have 13,000 properties. And of that, oh, my bad. Only 187. Sorry, the data didn't set. The data didn't reset. My bad. So you only have 187. I thought you had 1,000. I was like, oh my gosh, that's a ton. But you only have 187. So not a lot. Let's look at this one. This one is on Everett Road. Says they owe 453. Couldn't sell it. Looks like it fell off after it was expired. And it looks like the value they're saying is 297. I don't know. Looks like it's owned by an LLC, but they couldn't sell it. So if you're looking for a home in St. Clairsville, it could be an opportunity. You never know, right? Again, this is PropStream, folks. Great way to maybe find an off-market property or do more research than what you can do on Zillow. And I don't own them, and I don't get paid by them. It's just a resource. All right, let's do the next one. I'm looking forward to the investigation into Cuyahoga County and the move by folks to the suburbs. Yeah, it's startling. I think folks are looking in cheaper areas for tax breaks like Medina and Summit counties. Yeah, it's like the hollowing out of the metro area. I'm not seeing it as much in Columbus. I'm seeing it more so in Cincinnati and definitely in Northeast Ohio. That's what the data is telling me. It's like everybody's moving outside of that metro area into the suburbs. One of the reasons why they're doing it is, let's pretend you're buying your first home and you can get a lower interest rate from a builder. And the home's brand new, and the streets are brand new, and the schools are brand new. A lot of people are like, yeah, I'm going to go out there. I don't want a home built in 1900. I want everything new. And I'm not saying that's right or wrong, because that's a personal choice, but like the more that happens, what happens to the areas they left? Those homes are demolished. And that's what I'm seeing. I'm seeing the housing supply drop inside of Cleveland, where the suburbs, there's more and more homes being built. So we didn't gain any housing units. They just moved. And guess what? The roads, the water, the schools all still need maintained inside the city. that could be a big reason why property taxes continue to blow up, because somebody has to pay for all that. Now you're like you didn't pick up the roads and the bridges and move them. In fact, you really want to know what's happening here? Like, let me show you this right here. Let's see. I'm trying to find. This is the Substack from the guy that wrote the article about this. It's called The Angry Ohioan. Kind of a cool name, right? I thought he wrote the article. I don't see it on here. Oh, that's why. There we go. Oh, right here. I thought it was right here. My bad. I don't see it. My bad. Anyway, be on the lookout. That was a failed attempt at helping you out. But it's his Substack, though, has a great article on it. I just couldn't find it. I'll share it on a post on YouTube when I do find it. But he wrote a great Substack about what's happening. You're welcome, Ma Deuce. 3 non-skippable ads. I'm done with YouTube. But you know what's funny, Boss Hog? I have the ads set to the lowest level I can set them. Like, as a creator, I can set them like low, medium, or high. Some people do high. The default is medium. I set it to low. So I don't get paid as much for the live stream from YouTube. Not that you get paid a lot anyway, but it shows you the fewest number of ads. So I try my best with that, man. I can't control what they do. Sugar Butt 0608 43050. You're going to Mount Vernon. Let's do Mount Vernon 43050. I love Mount Vernon. $59. Sugar, you got to pay attention to the inventory for a market. Last year you had 61. Now we got 59. Means you lost homes on the market. Not as much to choose from if you're a buyer. Did you tell me if you're a buyer? Yeah, you're a buyer. In 2021, you only had 30 homes. So you gained some inventory. That means more choices, more competition for sellers. Generally, that helps, you know, it helps the buyer gain some leverage. But you still don't have what you had back in 2016. You had 162 homes then. Now only 59. But look at that pending ratio, 76. It means that the market is probably somewhat balanced with the demand and the supply. That's what that means. To move things along, I'm going to skip the prop stream stuff on the distress, but let's look at prices where you are. Typical home value in Mount Vernon is $252,000 for a single family home. And that's up 6%. Mount Vernon's off the hook, man. It just keeps going. It just keeps going. Back in 2020, it was 155,000. So it's up 62% from 2020. 62%. That's 10% a year in home price growth. So the question a lot of people ask at this point is, well, should I buy now? Because prices look like they're just going to keep going up. I mean, they're growing at 6% a year right now, so they may keep going up. That doesn't mean you should run out and buy something just to buy it. But it means that if you have the idea, and a lot of people have this thought, and it's no fault of their own, that's just kind of how the media has trained them, that just wait around because the housing market crash is coming. Again, you have to ask, where are they going to get the inventory? Where? I mean, a place like Mount Vernon will not allow like duplexes to be built. They won't allow small single-family homes to be built if you have a city lot and there's, enough room to build 2 homes. They won't allow it unless it's a certain size, unless it's in a certain area, unless it's have certain frontage, which is all okay according to zoning standards. But the point is, if they don't become more flexible with building in these smaller Ohio towns, especially for investors, nobody's going to build. And the homes they do build are probably going to be over what most people can afford. Or you're going to buy an old home, right? In town, right? One of those old homes and built in 1900, and you're going to have to do some work. Nothing wrong with that. You just got to be prepared for it. So it's Mount Vernon's tough. A lot of people like it. Property taxes aren't cheap there, but a lot of people like the town. So if you need help buying in Mount Vernon, let me know. Contact me on my website, and we'll talk for a few minutes and see if I can help at all. But I know Mount Vernon very well. I own some properties there, and I like the town. What's up, Strength? Oh, you want to buy in 43950. I did that already, right? Greed feet. Greed feet. Are your feet greedy? Property taxes should hit a cap of $2K. Anything more is unsustainable unless you sell out to the uber rich. I don't know if they should be capped at $2,000 or not. I can't tell you that. What I can tell you is some of the ideas that y'all have on property taxes are like 10 times better than what our politicians are coming up with. So it makes me realize that if we did abolish property tax in Ohio and the politicians had to figure out a way to fund the services in schools, I have confidence that if they really put their mind to it, people could figure it out. Because just the viewers on my channel make comments, and I think that's not a bad idea. Should they be capped at 2,000? I don't know if that'll work. But there are definitely options out there versus what we do now. Just wondering your input on foreclosure, where banks are now lending to buyers on these foreclosures, making it harder for flippers or investors to buy. What are your thoughts? I don't know about that. I don't know what you're exactly saying. There just aren't a lot of foreclosures right now in Ohio. Overall in the nation, there's not a lot. Like if I look at my market data here, and you can go in and look at, I didn't do this today, but you go in and look at pre-foreclosures here, right? And I look at by county. I don't have it by zip code. I have it by county. But let me go to the state level. So from a pre-foreclosure standpoint, there's only 16,238. At one point in Ohio, there were 90,000 foreclosures in the state. 90,000 in 1 year. Right now, there's 16,000 pre-foreclosure filings. So we just don't have a lot of foreclosures to begin with. If I look at it by county, and I go to pre-foreclosures, I mean, some of these counties have nothing. Even in Franklin County, it's only 2,000. Look at Cuyahoga County, though. That's that hollowing out I was just rambling about, right? Where inside, it's actually fallen the last few months. This is monthly, by the way. But 3,127 pre-foreclosures, and you can tell it is probably the highest in the state right now as far as the number. But that's that hollowing out effect, where a lot of the homes that are in foreclosure in Cuyahoga County could just be like abandoned properties, and they'll just get bulldozed eventually. It's sad. But overall, I'm not seeing foreclosures. So I don't know if they're lending on them or not. I know there's probably programs to lend on them, but I haven't experienced that. I'm just not seeing many of them. Like I'm in Licking County, there's only 100 right now. So, not many. Oh, Super chat. What up? DJ Burnett. Thank you. I appreciate it, man. That'll give me my hot dog at the football game tonight. Sweet. 44118. Traveling to Tri Valley. The Blue Aces are. 44118. Is there anything better than high school football in Ohio on Friday night? Maybe not. Oh, you got 44108. You're University Heights. That's interesting. I was just talking about this with someone, this area. Let's look at active listings. 104. Last year, 112. So you've lost inventory in University Heights. And the pending ratio right here, 0.67. Right here, right? This gauge or meter. It's telling me that, yeah, demand is falling. Overall demand is falling. Even as supply has fallen a little bit, you've got a little less demand than you did last year. It peaked. Your demand supply equilibrium peaked at 143 in July of 2023. A lot more sellers, a lot more buyers out there than there are now. And again, a lot of this translates into the higher interest rates. Rate is the Fed started raising rates, mortgage rates started going up, that demand started to fall. But that doesn't mean prices are falling yet. Just means at this point, less demand. Single family home price 256, last year 252. It's up just 1.3%. That's not a lot, right? That's really not a lot of growth. I mean, look back here when it was going bonkers. In 2020, it was 162 grand. And so by 2022, just 2 years later, it was 218. That's up 35% in just 2 years. From 2020 to 2022, those 2 years wrecked everything. I mean, that's 15% growth, over 15% growth in just 2 years. You can't do that. You can't do that for very long. Then it kept going. And now it's kind of starting to, roll over maybe a little. So this could turn negative. It could. But it'd have to be negative for a long time to return prices to, pre-COVID levels. Yeah, your list price. This is the median list price. How much are people listing homes for? It's still higher than last year. So that continues to go up. So if this, thing to watch here, folks, is if this active inventory falls too much, prices will probably stay higher. If you see this active inventory start to rise and you see this pending ratio fall, that's a signal that prices may start to come down. So they're not skyrocketing, but they're not falling yet where you are. That's what I'm seeing in 44118 University Heights. Thanks, DJ. Thanks for the super chat. Much appreciated. You know what? Since you gave me a super chat, I'm going to give you some bonus stuff. Let me give you some bonus stuff. Let's see. What else can we look at? Let's look at price cuts. I didn't talk about this today. How many people are cutting their price where you are? 22%. And again, for anybody watching, you can come to my website, go to data. You can access all this for free anytime you want. But 22% of all sellers have cut their price. Back during COVID, when prices were going nuts, tons of demand, not a lot of inventory, only 11% were cutting their price. Or 10%. Hardly anybody. But now you got almost a quarter of listings with a price cut. Let's look at, here's one I never talk about. Do I have this on here? Yeah, delistings. What percentage of listings are being yanked from the market and canceled from the seller? Like they didn't get the price they wanted, so they take their toys and go home. 10%. 1 out of 10 homes being yanked from the market. That's actually elevated for the last 10 years. It's nearly a 10-year high. And that's a function of sellers listing way too high. And they don't need to sell. So they're like, well, I'll just take it off from the market. Try again next year. And they list it, over what it should be. Nobody comes and makes an offer. They get upset. They take it off the market. 1 out of 10 homes. That's happening too. if there's anything else here. Days on market, 37 days. That's how long it's taking to put a home in contract where you are in that zip code. Last year was 45 days, so homes are moving quicker. They are. Probably why prices are still going up. We'll keep watching this. Thanks for the super chat. Much appreciated, DJ. And I think hot dogs are like $2 at the game. Sounds right. Maybe they're $4, something like that. But I skipped down to you because of that. So let me take another comment here. Six-volt bus. Boss Hog, I just hit F5 4 times when ads pop up. They come in 4s. Oh, is that what happens? Is that that's a shortcut? I didn't know that worked. I don't know. Again, I don't put the ads in. I have nothing to do with that except I can select how often they come up. A lot, sometimes, or not a lot. I select not a lot on my streams for a better viewing experience. Oh, look at this. I got another super chat. Sweet. From DJ. Man, you don't have to do that. But I'm thankful. Great insight on 44118. Just close on a triplex house there. I got $10 now. Now I got 12. That may be enough for pizza after the game. Sweet. Hey, so let me know. Again, thank you. Are you living at the triplex? And by the way, I love this. Triplexes are my jam. I love triplexes, quads, and duplexes. I fell into that when I first started investing in real estate, and it's kind of been my niche. So that's majority of what I own. And I love triplexes. So tell me, are you living there or are you just investing in it? I'd like to know. Inquiring minds want to know. Oh, let me talk to Sugar Bud again. We're having a hard time finding something in our price range. Yeah. So you're looking at Mount Vernon, right? Seriously, give me a call unless you're working with an agent. If you're working with an agent already, sign a contract and all that jazz, I don't want to interfere. But if you haven't and you just want to talk, I'll give you some ideas, fine. Maybe I can help, steer you in a different direction. Be less frustrated. But it's completely normal what you're going through, Sugar. Completely normal in this housing market, especially if you're trying to buy something that's not $1 million. 6-volt bus. 44023. Let's look at it. Chagrin Falls, much to my chagrin. All right, not a lot of listings here, so I'm going to have to go to the county level, unfortunately. It's probably going to take me, though. Oh, it's Cuyahoga County, so I'll have to use the county. There's just not enough data there to show you what's happening. 128 active listings, though. Last year, 121, so you have a little more inventory, but it's not a lot countywide by any means. You're still in this, range, right, of 100 listings. And look back. This is nuts. Look back in 2016, you had 490. Oh, I've been at it 2 hours, right? 490 listings. That's when houses were they're everywhere. I mean, you just walk and you keep bumping into houses. They're all over the place for sale. And you could have a crystal ball and know that this was coming in the housing market. Imagine that. That's when people were buying homes $5,000, $7,000, $10,000, just scooping them up. Now only 128 listings. It got really bad. People were buying, right? And then COVID made it a lot worse. COVID made it worse. Let's look at that pending ratio. 1. So sellers still in control, but it's not feverish like maybe during COVID or the end of COVID when it was 1.6. A lot more demand in the market. So, but sellers are still somewhat in control there. I mean, you're not going to be able to get anything you want as a buyer. As a seller, still got to price it right. And it doesn't mean you shouldn't make an offer lower than asking. That's not what it means. It just means that you're going to have less success doing it. That's all. Single family home value, $393. Cuyahoga County is expensive. You're ranked 4th in the state, 4th out of 88 counties for prices. It means you have the 4th highest single family home price for the county. Number 1 is Delaware. Last year was $375. You're up 5%. How many, I wonder how many permits you have. These are the permits. Barely 2. So barely 2 single family permits, basically single family homes being built for every 1,000 residents. It's not just 2 homes, it's 2 for every 1,000 residents. That's how they do it. So again, go back into the late 90s, and it was 6, right? A lot more building. And that's one of the reasons why you're just not seeing more inventory. But yeah, I don't know that you're going to see home prices fall anytime soon. They're still growing at 5%. So I wouldn't be shocked if next year it's up another 5%. I wouldn't be shocked at all. Thanks for checking in, 6. Check your 6, right? Oh man. Whoops, there's another one here. I'm a slow old man sometimes. Well, dude, you don't have to keep giving me. I mean, it's very nice of you. Thank you. Seriously, very, very nice of you. I'll be in the attic, 1 bedroom, middle unit, rented already. I want to rent out the bottom unit, 3 bedroom for $1,300. Thoughts? I don't know your rental market, but I do know, like with this, what you're doing, DJ. And if you're looking for a home and you're like, man, everything's really unaffordable, or I just don't want to pay these prices, it just doesn't feel right. From the looks of it, just from interacting quickly with DJ, it looks like he's doing it right. Like, I don't know, maybe you know, I call everybody man, but like DJ's doing it right. Like, look at that. Basically what they're doing is they bought a triplex, it sounds like. And a triplex is 3 units, right? So you buy a building where, and you guys have seen these all throughout Ohio, because they take these really old homes. And at one point, the city was cool enough, not anymore, but the city was cool enough at one point to allow you to take a massive single family home that's like 3,000 square feet from like 1920, and then they chop it up into apartments. That was very common. You've seen a lot of them. I own a lot of those. It's not an official apartment building, but it is now, right? He bought one of those, it sounds like, and they're living in the attic and renting out the other units. He's got 1 unit already rented, and now he wants to rent out the third unit for $1,300. So I don't know the financial details of this, but the point is that it allows DJ to move into the building. And because it's a residential property, anything under 4 units and under, so a single family house, a duplex, a triplex, or a quad, a 4-unit building, those are all considered residential. They're not commercial. So that allows you to buy this triplex, live in the attic, rent out the other 2 units, and let's pretend you rented the middle unit for $700, and you rent that bottom unit for $1,300. Now you've got $2,000 of income coming in for the triplex that probably takes care of a lot of your mortgage. And you're living there. And according to mortgage rules and FHA rules, you can get an FHA loan as long as you occupy the property and it's residential, which this is. And so if you're serious about finding an opportunity out there in Ohio, Those old multifamilies like this are great, great paths to do that. And then you could find another one, move into that one, do the same thing, keep your first triplex, wash, rinse, repeat. This is the biggest mistake I made early in my life, was not buying a small multifamily and house hacking it. It's called house hacking. I should be paying you. This is great information, DJ. Like, even if one person hears this and goes, oh, that's an idea. So next time you go and look at a property, whoever you are out there, look at multifamily on Zillow. See what you can find, or have your realtor pull multifamily, small multifamily. There are sometimes a lot more choices, and usually they're investors. Sometimes they need to sell. Anyway, fantastic. I love it. That made my day. This is the cheat code to wealth. I think it is. I think it really is the cheat code to wealth for younger generations, even older generations if they wanted to. But if you're starting out and you want to invest in real estate and buy a home, that's the way to do it. Oh, just don't get crap tenants. Right. Well, yeah, that's part of it, right? You got to be a good landlord. I saw one up here that was interesting. They'll change zoning for data centers. They do, right? You got to be careful of that. Like New Albany, from the research I did from that video I put out. By the way, that video got 1 million views on Facebook. I was like, what? Facebook's a lot easier to get views, though, than YouTube. It got like, what, 100,000 on YouTube. But when I did that video, I researched the data centers in New Albany, and it occurred to me that they designed all the zoning there for data centers. And a lot of these rural areas of Ohio they don't have any zoning. It's just like free for all. So they can really do anything they want. East Side Eddie. There'll be a lot more. Oh, we're talking about property tax. When counties stick their 200% tax increase there in 2027. Yeah, I mean, property taxes will probably continue to go up. I don't know. I don't know how it's going to get, how that trajectory is going to change. It could be the next bailout. It's not just Ohio. A lot of other states are suffering too. But it could be the next government bailout. Because if you just stop property tax, the counties will go bankrupt. So then what? I think they'll just bail them out if it gets too bad, like state or federal. What I'm saying is you're competing against people that are buying the houses to live in versus competing against other flippers or investors. Oh, you mean foreclosures? Yeah. You could be competing against people like that, which I don't have a problem with, actually. Like, from a humane standpoint, I think it's awesome if somebody who lives in a house buys the foreclosure in front of me as the investor. I'm okay with that. Latvian Village Production 6285-44420. Where's that? Let's look at that. I'll take one more, maybe two more after that, and then I'm done. And it's late, 2:30. Only 29 listings. What county is that? Trumbull. I got to do the county. You just don't have enough info there. How many were there? Let me go back and look. 29. I'll let it slide. I usually won't go underneath 30, but you're at 29. You're really close. All right. So last year you had 23 listings. This year, 29. You got a little more homes out there. 26% increase, but look back in 2016, you had 81 homes for sale. Now your pending ratio is 0.86. Tells me, hey, sellers are probably still calling the shots for the most part, although they're not getting everything they ask for. Look in 2023, it was 1.73. Sellers had all the leverage then, all the leverage. They're like, hey, this is what I'm charging. If you don't like it, tough. Not anymore. It's changed. Now it's 0.86. Look at it in 2016. It was 0.16. Buyers had all the control. Sellers couldn't do anything. They're like turtles on their back. They're like, what do I do? Single family home value, $153,000. Last year, 141. It's up 8%. Now, to be fair, prices aren't crazy there, right? I mean, they're not 390 grand. So being up 8%, doesn't have the same effect, but it's still up 8%. Look where it was in 2020, $86,000. That's an increase of 77%. So in 6 years, it went up 77%. Wow. That's a large increase. Maybe one of the larger ones I've seen. And if you come to my website, you could look at this too. But oftentimes, I think it's interesting to look at the great financial crisis and what occurred in 2006. Prices were $81,000. And look, they fell to $64,000 in 5 years. They were down 21%. Well, they bottomed, they bottomed at 62,000. That's 23% drop. And so what's really interesting is, it peaked in 2006 at 81 grand, and it took all the way to 2019. So it took, 13 years in your zip code from the point at which the housing market stopped growing, the prices stopped going up in 2006, all the way to where they fell. And then it took them 13 years to get back to what you would call normal levels. And then look at the difference since then. Just straight up. I don't know. I don't see how prices could really fall that much unless, unless you get inventory. You got to have a lot of homes. I don't have inventory in 2006. That data is almost impossible to get. So if you look in 2016, though, you had 81 homes, a lot more than you have now, nearly 3 times the inventory. So completely different market than back in the day, and prices reflect that. I don't know that you'll find, I don't know if you're going to see a lot of price decline. We'll keep watching it, but watch the inventory. If you don't see a lot of inventory coming in, forget about it. Price is higher for longer. All right. Yeah, so this thing, this comment, I understand how you feel this way. Basically saying that your 63-year-old bungalow was assessed for $43,000 higher than it was 3 years ago. This appears to be Summit County's game to raise taxes so much. Yeah, I should have mentioned this earlier, a few things, but first off, let's look at the zip code, 44310. So you've lost inventory there, but let's look at your prices and see where they've gone. In 3 years, you said, right? 1, 2, 1, 2. So it'd be 3 years right here. So in 2023, the single family home value there was 104 grand. Now it's 118 grand. So according to this, prices have gone up like 13,000 bucks. 13%. That's how much they've gone up in 3 years. So not 43,000, but this is a general look at the market, right? You get that. So what I would do, if you think you're being overtaxed on the value, not overtaxed, if you think your value is not correct and they overvalued your home, that's what I wanted to say, overvalued your home. I did just put an article out under these market updates, I do. How to appeal your property taxes in Ohio. And this isn't comprehensive yet, but I wanted to get something out because I had a lot of requests for this. But I ran a poll on my channel. Shoot, here it is. Sorry, guys. I ran a poll on my channel asking if people appeal their property taxes. And 354 people responded. Only 17% said yes. 45% said they don't appeal it. And 38% said they didn't even know they could. So this article is designed to give you a roadmap of how to protest your Ohio property value. Because the idea is you don't want to go in and say, I'm paid too much in tax. They're not going to listen to that. You got to go in with data and say, here are 3 sales that happened in my area, and their houses are just like mine. And here's what they sold for, and you have me valued here. I think it should be lower. And that's really all you have to do. And then they'll look at it and determine what's going on. But people have had success with this in lowering their taxable value. So if you think you're being overtaxed, East Side Eddie, then say something. Try. Maybe you already have, but that's what's going on. Hopefully that helps. So Buckeye Bug Services. I love it. I have a couple homes in Fairfield County, Fairfield Beach, Southside, Buckeye Lake. Should I rent them out or sell? As of right now, it's unlawful to do short-term rentals. That's what I was going to suggest. I always encourage people to keep their real estate Buckeye Bug if they can and if it makes financial sense. If there's something else you have planned with the money or you need to sell them, fine. But if you're, just ask yourself this one question. 1, do they make money? 2, if you sold them today, and because they're rentals, maybe you know this, you could get whacked pretty hard with capital gain tax, depending on where you bought them. So if it makes sense to keep them, do it. But if you need to sell them or you want to sell them, just ask yourself what you're going to do with the money. I'm not a financial advisor. This is not financial advice. You should talk to a financial advisor and an accountant if you think about selling. But think about what you're going to do with the money and how the taxes will affect you, the capital gain tax. Now, there are options like you could 1031 exchange into another rental somewhere else. You could do that. But if you don't exchange and do a 1031, you may get hit pretty hard with capital gain tax. So I would, I'll tell you what you should do. And this is for any investor out there. I'm full of all kinds of tricks today and advice. Not my advice, just other advice. Look at this. Check this out. This website is called One Rental at a Time, and it's in the school community, SKOOL, which is like a learning platform. This is $20 a month. I don't own it. I don't make any money on subscriptions or anything like that, but I'm a member of this community, and there's like 500, 600 other investors, small investors, and there are some in Ohio. But the point is, this website has people involved in it that can help you work through all that. It's a great community for investors, for small investors. So check it out. And anybody investing, including you, DJ, with the Triplex, it's a good community to bounce ideas off of. I'm in there all the time, just looking around and contacting people and asking them questions. All right, what's next? Great question. I can't answer that for you, I guess, in the bottom line. You're going to have to figure that out, but those are the things I'd ask yourself. Oh, okay. Pay for your own appraisal. That's what you're saying. The old bag. Yeah, you're saying on protesting property tax? Yeah, that's an option. Pay for your appraisal. You could do that. Yeah. Us older people on fixed incomes can't afford a 200% tax increase, and they just have to accept the foreclosure. Man, I hate hearing that. That's what Akron wants for AMHA. Oh, American, I don't know what that is. Foreclosures they can use for Section 8. So, like, here's the weird thing about Ohio with tax foreclosures. They sell the tax liens to investors. That's why there aren't many tax foreclosures in the state. There just aren't. And I couldn't figure out why. Now I know. Counties will just package up all their tax delinquencies, sell them to an investor. The investor pays the county all the money they're owed. So the county's like, I've got my money, I'm good. No big deal. And then the homeowner's left dealing with the investor, who charges 18% interest. Now, eventually they can foreclose, but right now I'm not seeing a lot of foreclosures. So I don't know if the city or the county actually want the properties. I more so right now think that they're kind of indifferent. They're like, well, I got my money from the investor. Why should I even bother? There's a bill right now in the Ohio legislature, Bill 493, I think it is, that is looking to eliminate the ability of counties to sell those tax liens to investors. If they do that, counties will have to figure out how to deal with all of these property tax foreclosures. And that, East Side, may be the best way to address the property tax crisis, because counties will be forced to deal with all the back taxes and the collection of those rather than selling them to an investor. Not the foreclosure selling, they're selling the tax lien. So you're behind on your tax, can't pay it. After a certain time, under Ohio revised code, they can package all of them up and sell them to an investor for millions of dollars. The county gets their money, and then you just deal with it. Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. I'm glad it's helping. Yeah, that you're right. That appraisal, or like what you said your home got appraised for, or the assessed value rather, was $37,000 difference. But don't use that information. Like from a standpoint, I mean, it's directional, but you got to look at the comparable sales in your area. Just use Zillow and look and go, what sold recently around me? How much were those homes? Are they like my home? Are they better, worse? Look at the pictures. And then I'll give you proof. There's a form uh, on the county site, wherever you are, there's a form where you can fill it out, and you can protest between January 1st and March 31st in Ohio. That's like the window to protest. So be ready. What's up, Alito, Texas Twins? Man, you don't have to, like, you come here, like, and I don't know, you may be somebody secret. I'm wondering who you are. Maybe you have like an alias on YouTube. But like, you're from Texas and you're coming to the Ohio channel. I love it. Thank you. Thank you. Texas property taxes are nuts too. Oh, you called and left them a message as instructed 12 days ago. I had to send them a nasty gram asking why they ignore me. I got an email today saying I'll get a call today, and I'm still waiting. Oh, on property taxes? Yeah. Again, I know this is difficult. I see it a lot. And I would be the same way. If you're emotional about it, not saying you shouldn't be emotional but about it, but try to control your emotions when you engage with them, because it's a small area, right? People know everybody. And then get your facts together on assessing your home, and go to the, submit them in the window, and then go there with your facts and say, this is what I found. Okay. If, yeah, I understand. Well, those houses are in better condition. So that means something, right? If they're all brand new flips from a standpoint, they're all newly renovated and yours is not, well, use that and then put that address down, and you could print out the pictures if you want. Drive by and take a picture of the house. If it looks a lot nicer than yours on the street, show them the picture. If you're on the street, you can take pictures anytime you want, really. I'm not a lawyer, but that's what I know of Ohio law. So drive by, take a picture of the house. And then when you go to the hearing, go, look at this. Look at this house. Like, mine looks like this. That looks like that. They sold for this amount. What are you doing valuing my home at this price? That makes no sense. My bet is that they'll change it if the data makes sense, right? Anyway, I wish you luck. I think you know, all you can't control everything, but at least you can do what you can do. And if you don't do anything about it and you never go to the hearing and you never submit the data, it's hard to complain about it, right? Oh, hey, look at this. Sweet. Madus, nice job. Paid for an appraisal. They used it to challenge my property tax. They accepted and approved my request. Good job. That's all you can do. So you say your deadline to contest today. I would check that out because I thought it was January through March. And I thought that was an Ohio law. So double check that. I think there's an additional time that they've put in, but I believe, I could be wrong, you may want to talk to an attorney, that it's January to March. When I did the research, that's what came out. Yeah, that I don't know. Look again, check out this article on my site. This article right here. I just wrote it like 4 days ago on how to appeal your Ohio property tax. And what I found out was the deadline is fixed by state law. It's January 1st through March 31st, every Ohio county, no exceptions. They do have other windows from what I did and what I found in my research, but they all follow this. And I think they may have opened another window because, you know, to protest it because of the changes that happened with the property taxes over the last few years. Just some practical advice here. See if I can zoom in. So you're disputing your home's value, not the tax rate or your bill. You don't want to do that. You don't need a lawyer. There's no fee to file. Evidence wins, not opinion. A recent sale, an appraisal, a comparable sale, not this feels too high, right? So bring that data in. Anyway, hopefully this helps. Give it a read. But check out that deadline. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. But I thought the deadline was that they had a window, or some counties had a window, a special window now, but the actual official window is January through March. Chuck Stone, pushing people out of their homes, 30% increase. And then what about next year's increase? Right. I agree, Chuck. I agree. And I mean, so look, like I know the chief of police where I live. Not chief of police, the fire chief. I know him, went to school with him, went to high school with him. Great guy. The fire folks and the EMS workers, in my experience here, are tremendous. They've helped my father out, and several times they're there 2 minutes after you call them. They do a great job. The police do a great job. The school system and the teachers are fantastic. I have no problem funding all that. My problem is that the taxes are tied to the value, the unrealized gain of your home. And why do property taxes and school funding increase? Because the value of your home increases. Like the school should be like, well, it doesn't cost us 53% more or 30% more or 20% more to run the school just because the value of Jason's home goes up. There's no correlation there whatsoever. That's the part I have a problem with. Some people just don't want taxes, period. But I'm realistic enough to know that that's probably not possible. So I'm like, all right, there has to be a better way to do it. But property values skyrocketed. They didn't have the tax system to handle it. Great conversation. How much have I missed? You just came on. You missed like 3 hours, almost 3 hours. Man, I'm wiped, guys. I know there's probably some other zip codes I missed. We got into property taxes and stuff, but it's important. So look, we're going to do this again next week. Next Friday, 12:15 or so. I'll be here. I look forward to seeing you all. Have a great weekend. And enjoy some football tonight. Enjoy some nice fall weather, hopefully, right, this weekend. And I am the housing nerd. My name is Jason Barrier. I'm a realtor. I'm an investor. I'm out. OUT. Catch you next week, y'all.